I would now like Kirpa to come to the podium to introduce our faculty speaker, Kirpa Savlani.
When sitting down to write this introduction, there were so many things that came to my mind. I didn't know how to start, so I decided to ask a couple students from the class of 2013 what they thought about our teacher speaker. One student said that he is possibly the most competitive math teacher she's ever met, when he plays games like Clue, that is. Another said he's very easy to approach and always offers help when needed. A third student, who I think perfectly described the kind of teacher Mr. Roy is, said, and I quote, "You think he's an adult with all his Lacoste t-shirts and all, but then you realize he's an 18-year-old just like the rest of us, and that's why we're all best friends with him." Mr. Roy is a teacher that is able to make any subject, yes, even math, fun. With games like Danger Card and Calculus Bingo, he makes math something students look forward to and enjoy, despite his moments of sass. And trust me, by experience, there's been a lot of those. Even though I've only had Mr. Roy for 1 year, he proved to be a teacher who not just pushed me, but pushed every student to their fullest potential. I still remember the smallest things that he taught me, because in his class, I didn't feel like I needed to cram information into my head before a test, but I truly enjoyed how I was learning. I can honestly say that his classes were some of the most enjoyable I have ever experienced in high school, and will be one of the things I miss the most. Unfortunately, along with us, his time at ASB is also coming to an end. And as a class, we would like to thank him and wish him the best of luck. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our teacher speaker, who surprisingly isn't wearing a Lacoste shirt, Mr. Jason Roy.
Thanks, Kirpa. That was really great. Your math studies class was wonderful. Seniors, congratulations. The last time you saw me speaking in public, I was shaking. A lot like the zebra corn before a biology test. After that speech, Bhavya and Ari mocked me. But some things never change. Kanika offered me a hug. The seniors' choice today was surely one last act of torture that they could inflict on a fragile, humble, kind, loving math teacher. Seniors, remember, you are responsible for the choices that you make. In the last 3 years, I've learned new strategies in the art of speeches from our beloved headmaster, Mr. Johnson. For instance, everything starts better with a quiz. I'm going to read you 2 job descriptions. Think about which you would choose. Job A, it's a career you're well prepared for. You took a lot of courses on the subject in college, though truthfully, your interest in it was mainly due to pressure from your parents and your friends. Your early years in the career will be grueling, but in the long run, the job practically guarantees a high salary and prestige. Job B, it's a non-traditional career. You've always been interested in it, though. Your expected earnings would be much more modest, but the work would be more fulfilling. It would give you profound freedom to discover yourself and to benefit humanity. Which job would you choose? Here at ASB, we have 9 core values. As I thought about your graduation today, the second one resonated with me. People are responsible for the choices they make. And you are about to enter a world with more choices to make than ever before in your lives. Now, if I had 10 rupees for every time Miss McGee mentioned that students were making poor choices, I'd have more money than Shannon has gray hair. To be fair, it's not just Miss McGee. I've thought these things too. If being responsible for the choices you make is a core value, you might think that making great or just good choices was an easy thing to do. Of course, it's incredibly complicated, but I've come up with a few things to share. We'll cover the dangers of too many choices, the trouble with too few choices, how small choices can make big choices more likely to succeed, And we'll even learn a new strategy for tackling tough choices, like the one I began with. Now, if this all sounds more confusing than Adam's last name, don't worry. It's not. Let's dig in. Okay, choice fact number 1. Making too many choices is a bad thing. Who knew? We think we love making choices. 31 flavors of ice cream at Baskin-Robbins. But making too many choices leads to making poorer choices. This even has a fancy technical term, one that Prasad will appreciate: ego depletion. For the rest of us, an easy way to think of ego depletion is to imagine that you wake up every morning with a bucket full of all your willpower for the day. As we go through the day making decisions, we use up the willpower in our buckets. And by the end of the day, lo and behold, we are making lousy choices, like eating an entire box of Oreo cookies in one sitting, like watching 4 or 5 episodes of One Tree Hill in an evening, like hooking up with 4 different people at Tryst, or leaving a tray of mashed potatoes in Miss Clark's room. It's true. For guys like Anjan, sometimes the bad decisions start right after lunch. There's an easy thing you can do to help counteract this. Make fewer choices. You have amongst you a shining example of this, an exemplar to follow. Where is my friend Anish? Well, some of us wake up every morning and spend an exorbitant amount of time figuring out how to put ourselves together just perfectly. Puja, Harshal, Fancy Tuesday, purple shorts. Not Anish. He just grabs a pair of cargo shorts and a solid gray, white, or black t-shirt. From the top of the stack, he's ready to go. By eliminating these choices from his morning, Anish is able to begin his day with at least half the willpower that Tara has in her bucket. So, while it can be dangerous to make too many decisions in a day, in Decisive, the Heath brothers explain how framing or boxing yourself in to too few choices can be troublesome as well. Now, you know you're framing if the decision you're contemplating includes the phrase, whether or not. Mickey, wondering whether or not she should take Math HL. Of course she should. Vikram, wondering whether or not he should get an additional earring. Of course he shouldn't. Or Owen, pondering whether or not he should quit student council. Okay, we'll come back to that. Our minds play tricks on us that can make it incredibly hard to break out of these narrowly framed situations. But here's 2 strategies that work. First, you can imagine that an option no longer exists. So what would you do if your choice disappeared? Or you can widen the choice to consider more options. So if Vic didn't get that additional earring, perhaps he could go for a tattoo. You can also use wise choice making to help plot your future. Say, for example, I don't know, all your life you imagine yourself as a chef. You saw your future cooking in Michelin 3-star restaurants. So you go to college and you spend years in cooking school learning the difference between a bechamel and a béarnaise, only to get a job in a restaurant and find out that you really hate it. You'd rather be reading Pinocchio to preschool kids. Clearly not a wise choice. A better plan of action is to make what Peter Sims calls little bets. Before spending years getting a degree for a job it turns out you don't like, dip your toes in the water. Try stuff out. Spend a summer working as a DJ, like Sean does, or working in a restaurant to see if you like it. When you get to college, take classes about anything and everything. Find out who the best professors are and take classes with them too. This is why at ASB, you might hear us constantly talking about how we're prototyping things. It's okay that some of the stuff we prototype doesn't work, and it would be worrisome if our prototyping success rate was much higher. Little bets help make it safe to fail. One caveat though, little bets are great for testing waters, but are not an excuse to bail out on commitments. You can't try the football team out for a few weeks just for fun. And for the record, Owen, I'm glad you stuck with student council. We had more enthusiasm this year from upperclassmen than any time in recent memory, and your leadership had a large role in that. Okay, let's recap. Here's what we have established. Making too many choices can use up your willpower, but forming good habits can help. If you find yourself framing a choice as a whether or not situation, either expand or limit your options. And finally, make better choices by employing little bets to explore your options before going all in. All right, now, every year, I usually give some seniors a book that'll hopefully resonate with them as they head off to their futures. Of course, Craig stole my idea, but I'm doing it anyway. So I convinced student council to buy these books for you. I found the perfect book, but since this speech is about choice, it only made sense to widen the menu a bit. Okay, so sometime soon, go to bit.ly/ASB Senior Book, all lowercase, okay? And you'll find the books I mentioned today and some others, and I'll send you the link. So what about that question at the beginning about the two jobs? Job A, a high-powered career, lots of money. Job B, work you're passionate about, would benefit humanity. The latest research in decision science says that tough choices like this are best tackled by distancing yourself from the situation. One easy way to do this is to think, what would you tell your best friend to do? So this question was examined at Stanford, and 66% of students chose job B for themselves. But when they were thinking about a job for their best friends, 83% of students chose job B. Hannah Kay, Owen Connor, Shimona Babia, there are lots of best friends amongst you. The next time you have a really tough decision, think about your best friend. David Foster Wallace placed an even larger emphasis on choice than I have when he said, learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. It means being conscious and aware enough to choose what you pay attention to and to choose how you construct meaning from experience. Sometimes it takes stepping out of the madness of everyday life to be able to have the clarity to make good choices. Teachers, like me, sign up for yatra trips just like students do. And I signed up for silence and meditation in Nepal, purposely knowing that it would put me way, way, way out of my comfort zone. Spiritual is not a word that people use to describe me, ever. It was on the third day of the trip with Madam Wen that I decided at the end of the year I would go home to be with my family, not because of Madam Wen. Some smart aleck, maybe it was Arvind, pointed out to me the other day that I'd spent nearly a fifth of my life here. And for some of you, that percentage is closer to 4/5. They said it like maybe it was a bad thing. But really, what a great place to spend fifths of your life. ASB is a school of unparalleled opportunity, a school whose reach is able to change lives for us, our community, our city, and beyond. All this, even when we don't always make perfect choices, like skipping an assembly to hide in the science office. Anyhow, Dylan, Simran, I'm glad you joined us today. I love that you are all here. I'm really privileged that you chose me to speak for you, and that I've been able to spend these 8 years at ASB growing and learning with you. It's been fantastic. Congratulations again on your graduation. Thank you.